a collection of short, real dogman and werewolf sightings and encounters in 2023. Story number 1. Dogman in the Selinsgrove Woods. Dear Scary Stories NYC. Selinsgrove, PA is the tiny town I grew up in and around, and it's where I saw my one and only cryptid that I've ever seen in my entire life, which was a dogman, in case you aren't patient enough to wait till I get to that part. It's important that you understand where Selinsgrove is placed on the globe for this story to make sense. It's right on the Susquehanna River, which runs north-south in that region, and it's just to the east and north of a chain of mountains that extends down into West Virginia. That mountain chain has been a place where people have experienced more strange phenomena and seen more impossible monsters than any other place I'm aware of. Maybe Skinwalker Ranch out west is another place with a reputation like this place. To get to those mountains, you need to head west from Selinsgrove, and there are two main highways that will allow you to do that. Route 35 and Route 522, see? And in between those two roads is this big, unnamed forest area. Unnamed as far as I know, anyway. I'm not sure if it's government-owned or private or what it is, but in my opinion, there are a number of kinds of cryptids living inside those woods. If they don't live there, then there must be a portal in those woods or something, like an interdimensional bus depot. I used to have a group of friends who would sneak off to those woods, and they all told me at least one story each about seeing weird things in there. Usually it was Bigfoot, and he was the one I most wanted to see. One of my friends said they saw a pterodactyl at dusk, and when it got darker out, the pterodactyl started glowing, like his wings sort of glowed in the dark. That was the weirdest story I ever heard, but the guy insisted he wasn't BSing us. He sure seemed to be serious about his giant glow-in-the-dark dino bird. It is sort of a weird thing to try and make up, I guess, so maybe you really did see it. What I saw was pretty weird too, but it was a creature that Pennsylvania has sort of become known for. I saw the Pennsylvania dogman, and I saw it in the woods to the west of Selinsgrove. But it wasn't just like a Dr. Meldrum animal sighting. It was an entire supernatural type experience. Okay, this next part is going to make some people angry. I've been telling this story all year, and people always get angry about this next part. Me and my friend Aubrey were playing with a Ouija board, and we asked to talk to a cryptid. I understand now that this was a stupid thing to do because I've been lectured and lectured about it. But at the time, I just thought it was sort of like the internet, only psychic. I wanted a cryptid experience, so I tried to sort of go online and order one for delivery, you might say. It didn't seem like such a big deal to me. I mean, Ouija boards are made by Parker Brothers, not by a weapons manufacturer. How was I supposed to know that something might go wrong? I mean, you don't even have to plug that thing in. So I didn't really expect it to be able to do anything. But it started to spell out words phonetically, usually misspelling stuff. We were getting a message from it about trees and nature, but we weren't really understanding it. When Aubrey started to ask it yes or no questions, it started to make more sense. Questions like, "Are you a ghost?" To which it replied, "No." "Are you alive?" It said yes. "Are you human?" "No." We asked if it wasn't human, then what was it? And it started to fly around the board choosing random letters that didn't spell anything out. I wanted to see a Sasquatch, and I had heard they were psychic, so I asked if it was a Bigfoot. It said no, but only after a bit of a pause. Aubrey asked if he was a dogman and laughed as he said it, but the planchette went directly to yes, and I mean directly. It did not pass go, and it did not collect $200. We made plans with the dogman to meet by the hanging tree, which is what we call a bent tree in those woods. I don't know if anyone was ever really hung there, but it looked spooky, so we call it that. The two of us were excited as we showed up, but once I was there, I have to admit that I wanted to go back to Aubrey's home. It seemed like a better idea in my head than it seemed in reality to go to this place, if you know what I mean. And then we heard the woods crackling, and we heard branches parting. And then out of those woods walked this big, nasty-looking dogman. A killer, if ever there was one. It had more muscle than 3 professional wrestlers, and its eyes looked like they were on fire. Its ears stood up like you would expect, but it walked like a man. Not a human man, though. Some kind of hellish, cursed, unholy man. It opened its mouth as if it were going to say something, but this raspy sound came out instead. And I lost it. I screamed like a little girl when I am a 20-year-old guy. And Aubrey started running away as soon as I started screaming. When I saw him leaving, I ran twice as fast away from there. I know I was the one who had arranged this meeting, but I guess I hadn't really thought it through. We could hear that big thing running after us for a while. It sounded like it was calling out to us, but I couldn't understand what it was saying. Of course, I was running as hard as I could, and I was not stopping to listen. We got away and we thought that was the end of it, but Aubrey says the thing shows up outside his window at night, and it says things to him that sound like gibberish. It has this expression on its face, like it's telling him something important, but it never makes any sense. And then it runs away. Aubrey blames me for the fact that he's bothered by the creepy supernatural dogman. But I can't be held responsible for the dogman in the Sellens Grove Woods. Story 2. Gas Station in Lock Haven. Dear Scary Stories NYC. Here's a Pennsylvania dogman story from earlier this year. It was coming out of winter and heading into spring, and the weather was sort of a lot like it is now in autumn, really. I think it was in the 50s that night, so a little chilly, but nothing that's going to freeze your icicles on you or anything. But instead of the leaves turning orange and yellow, most of the trees were still bare, or maybe just at the first stages of starting to sprout, you know? I was driving up north toward the Bucktail State Park Natural Area and State Game Lands 89. But I was still in civilization when this happened. I was at the intersection of Susquehanna and Hill, where there's this little gas station. Everything else around there is private homes. And off in the distance you can see the Pennsylvania hills. Those are the hills of mystery, I'm telling you. So it was dark out, and I'd filled up my car and got inside the office to pay. Then I got the bathroom key and walked around the back to take a whiz. When I walked into that bathroom, it smelled even worse than you would expect a gas station bathroom to smell. I felt like retching, but I really had to pee. So I took a few steps into this dark, smelly hellhole of a public restroom, looking for the urinals. Before seeing those, though, I saw the dogman. It looked like some kind of avenging satanic angel or something. It was standing there perfectly still, as though it had been waiting for me for 1,000,000 years. It almost looked like a statue, but statues don't smell that horrible. And then the thing tilted its hideous head up, slightly. And our eyes met. Its eyes looked like they were from hell itself, and I don't see why they might not have been. I screamed like a cat being gutted, and I felt the warm yet cold sensation running down my leg. Well, it didn't seem like I needed to use the men's room anymore, did it? No, it didn't. So I ran. I ran back to the car, and I could hear that monster coming out after me. I ran straight to my car, jumped in, and locked all the doors before I even looked back. I saw the Beastman standing silhouetted against this pale red or maybe pink house, and then it walked off behind the gas station. I waited a minute. Then I drove out to Susquehanna and down just a little ways, so I could look down where I saw the monster walking. It looked to me like he was drinking water from a swimming pool. So I fished around looking for where I'd left my phone on the other seat. By the time I grabbed it, the dogman had gone away though. I doubt I would have been able to get a clear photo in the dark anyway. Not from inside my car at least. And you couldn't have paid me to go back out there on that night. I still stop at that place to get gas from time to time. But I will never again bother the dogman as he's doing his duty inside the gas station in Lock Haven. And story number 3. The Hound of Hempfield. Dear Scary Stories NYC. Not too far to the east and south of Pittsburgh is a creepy little forest between little towns with names like Adamsburg and Fort Allen. It's an area called Hempfield Township, a place named for hemp, which is also known as cannabis. It was once the most important crop when we were still colonies, but not because of the smoking stuff, because rope and blue jeans and canvas for sales was made from that. In fact, the word canvas derives from the word cannabis, believe it or not. So I figured that must have been a big hemp farm at one time in the past, when it was first settled and named. And now it's a forest of the most enchanted sort. And I mean that in both a good way, in that it's charming and beautiful, and in the bad way, in that it's scary and confusing when it wants to be. It was in that little woodland that I saw and got chased by something that I am pretty convinced must have been a Pennsylvania dogman. If it wasn't some kind of a werewolf, then it must have been Cocaine Bear, because it was thin, it was wiry, and it was faster on 2 legs than any bear has a legal right to be. It was a couple of days after I had been fired from my full-time job in early summer. I had spent a day or two looking for another job. Then this was the day I was so frustrated that I went and took a walk in the woods. I was hoping for some peace and quiet, so I could put my head back together like Humpty Dumpty. What I got was not peace and quiet. What I got was a big monster trying to kill and eat me. Sometimes people say they sense that they're being watched, or being chased, before they finally see the dogman. But I had no idea the thing was there, until it jumped out of the bushes at me. I thought it was a chimpanzee at first, but obviously it was not. I never thought it was a Sasquatch. It wasn't as large as I would have expected one of those to be. That's not to say it was small. It was over 6 feet, because that's my height. And this was a bit taller than I am. This dog-headed monster seemed to delight in terrifying me. It screeched, and it bluff-charged me over and over again. It seemed to think all of this was funny. I thought it acted more like an ape than a dog, but in either case, it was a bully, and it was rude. I think he planned on eating me, but he was going to tire me out first. I didn't like this creature in the slightest. I tried to punch him, but he was too quick for me to land a fist. I tried to hit him with a stick, but he grabbed it away from me and spanked me with it. Whatever I did, he could undo 3 times faster, and I was running out of ideas. I was already out of breath. The dogman started chasing me out of the woods, and I was having a harder and harder time keeping ahead of him. I was crying and blubbering when I suddenly wandered out of the woods and walked face first into a cop. The dogman wisely remained in the woods somewhere behind, while the offended officer wiped my bodily fluids off of himself and took me in for questioning. Basically, I was being arrested for annoying the officer, but I was fine with that, because it sure beat the alternative. I wouldn't have even minded if I got locked up overnight on that night. It didn't come to that, but I did get taken downtown and bellowed at for a while. The arresting officer felt I was acting suspicious, But I was so grateful to be inside and safe. They eventually gave up on me and let me go. And that's my personal story about how I got chased by the Hound of Hempfield. Real Wolfmen, True Encounters in Modern America. A lot of the stories we run on this channel are supposed to be true, but it's not like I have budget or time to look into any of the claims made. Someone who made her living looking into dogman claims, though, was the late great Linda Godfrey. If you like the stories on this show, then you should check out this incredible audiobook from Linda called Real Wolfmen, True Encounters in Modern America. Linda goes back to the 1930s and tells a number of the better researched dogman and werewolf stories of the 20th and 21st centuries. It's a great overview of the subject matter, whether you're new to it or even if you think you know all the stories. It's available in audiobook, audio CD, paperback, or Kindle forms at the address in the description for this video. The audiobook is over 8 hours and is probably the best deal there. Plus, if you use the link in the description, supposedly you're helping us out here in some way that I'm still learning about. And now here's your old pal Bigfoot with an important message about today's executive producer. For executive producing and all that jazz, you can't do better than Mary Shabazz. Please join us in thanking Mary Shabazz for making this episode possible. Mary is a top tier member of our channel memberships. That means she gets to see all our secret uncensored stories, plus lots of other perks that I can't even tell you about unless you're also a top tier member. Here to explain it all in more detail is our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.